Now the posts are the most important part of the deck. They actually support the whole frame. In this case, they're treated H4 pine rounds. They're actually concreted into the footing. Another method which I actually prefer is to be supported on post supports. I'll show you a bit more about that later on. I'd like to show you the house out that supports the bearer. The bearer is then bolted to the post and the joist is attached to the bearer. The decking board's attached to the joist. We've got our post support here. We spoke about these earlier. I prefer to use the ones that we screw to the top of the footing. Now, assuming that these are already attached to the footing, they need to be in line. Use a string line and make sure they're aligned with each other. We're using a 90 by 90 mm pine post, and believe it or not, the post support is actually 90 mm. That slides in like that and is attached with coach screws. The top of the post would be the height of the top of the bearer, and this checkout will be the bottom edge. What we're doing here is we're using a dumpy level. We use a dumpy to establish the height of the post. You can hire a dumpy from your hire centre. It's a simple process. You look through the viewfinder, read the height measurement, and just make sure that that measurement is the same on every post. That way, you're guaranteed your deck will be nice and level. You can call me old-fashioned if you like. You can forget the dumpy level. This length of 12 mm clear tube filled with water and food colouring is the best level you can find. Providing there's no air bubbles and nobody standing on the tube, you just can't go wrong. Frank has set his end to the correct height. Then all I need to do is take my end to each post and adjust them if they're higher or lower to make the top of the deck perfectly level. And the third and final method is a level with a straight piece of timber. We've cut all our posts to length and we've done the housing on this one. We've got one more housing to go and I'll show you all the steps. The housing is equivalent to the size of our bearer. In this case it's 200 mm by 50. Before you start any measuring or cutting, make sure your post is securely clamped. The last thing you want it to do is move while you're cutting it. I've marked the line 200 mm down from the top, just squaring it across with my combination square. You also need to square the lines down both sides. The depth of your housing will be 50 mm. That's equal to the thickness of the bearer. The easiest way to set that is to use your combination square at 50 mm. And you just use that to draw a line along the edge, across the end, and down the other edge. Another good tip, mark out the waist with crosses. That way you won't cut the wrong piece out. To cut out the housings, I've set my saw blade to a depth of 50 mm. We're going to cut a series of saw cuts, knock it out with a hammer, clean it up with a chisel, instant housing. For the final step, just use a smoothing plane to get a nice flat surface for the bearer. You just hold the plane on a slight angle, that way you slice the grain off. Any cut surfaces on pine need to be resealed. If you're using hardwood, you can use a primer.